If you're watching us today, we'd first like to say welcome to Heart Not Head. And just because I absolutely 100% believe that that's where true leaders are born. If you want to lead people in a way that they trust you, that they feel safe in your hands, then leading from your heart is always going to get you there faster than leading from your head. And whether you're a leader or not, just living authentically, living in the true person in what your calling is in your life is always going to resonate with those people around you. And certainly in business, that's so important, but not just in business, in life in general. And today I've got the lovely Christina Christou with me, and we're going to explore why should we lead from our heart? What happens when we lead from our heart? What results will we get? So first of all, welcome Christina to joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much. Such an honor to be here.
Well, I'm looking forward to this conversation because even just in the short time we've met before, I could see that there's a connection between us. So I would love to know, just start us off with a little bit of who you are, actually, so the listeners know.
Okay, well, my name is Christina, and so I have my own business. I work as a healer, basically holding space, helping people heal their wounds, and I run meditations and workshops on how to overcome stress and Reiki and all that sort of stuff. So I've been on this journey of self-discovery since 2000, and what I find is that you never stop learning. So I personally spent a lot of time living with Indigenous people in North America, especially Latin America. Here, of course, but a lot of time was spent in the Amazon with the Shipibo tribe. So for me, I just wanted to know who I am, why am I here, and what is this madness all about? But also it was about learning to heal my body because I wasn't given any options that I would adhere to with Western medicine. So it was a crazy journey of finding truth and yeah, trying to remember who I am and why I'm here was very important. And I just found following the ways of Indigenous people really resonated for me. And so that was the catalyst of doing what I do because what they shared with me worked on my body and I was able to help to heal myself basically.
Which is a wonderful testimony in itself, though.
Mm.
What is it about? You had a bit of a conversation before. What is it for you about recognizing where your heart is calling you to? Why is that important?
I think when you're not following your heart paths, it's never going to end well. It's about trusting. And so many people I know are in jobs for the wrong reasons and they're miserable doing so, whether it's being ill physically or mentally and so forth. And I think there's a great fear in trusting in your intuition in today's world or that leap of faith because we're expected to at a certain age have a certain amount of money and success is really based on how much finances you have or properties or stuff. And so we're driven by that or the fear of lack and limitation. So we lose sight of what is truth to us or what it is that we want to do, but also based on pressures from society, whether it's family or friends or, yeah. And so when you do follow your heart, especially in your business, it's never going to fail because you're being honorable. And this is a time where we have to walk our talk. It's a great time in human history where for the first time we get to really be human and we have free will to choose. But fear, I think, is what governs a lot of businesses because it's all about numbers, which can work for some, but not for everyone. So for someone like me, the whole marketing and got to put out stuff every week doesn't work because it's not who I am. I just like doing my thing. And so when you like doing your thing, the money will come, the business will come. It's about not pushing or trying to control, but actually just trusting that you will be guided and everything you need will be supplied. It's about, I think, believing in yourself, knowing, and if you can't trust yourself, then how do you trust in your business or anything else?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, isn't it?
Mm.
Because in a sense, if you can't trust yourself, how can you ask other people to trust you? If you're not feeling comfortable, confident, in alignment with who you are and what you're doing, then that is going to show, isn't it, to your clients? It's actually going to, they're going to read it in you that you're uncomfortable with what you're saying. And I think often in sales calls, particularly, people who are leading from the heart or who've really got a heart mission, they don't like sales calls because they've listened to a wrong way of selling. They think they have to sell in a particular way that feels so wrong. And, understandably, many of those kind of sales calls fail because the person who's on the other side of the table or on the other side of the screen can recognize that there's some kind of dis-ease for the person who's running the call. Is that your experience?
Look, that's very true because prior to doing what I'm doing, it's not like, oh, I'm going to be a healer when I grow up. Or I did work in the business sector and I was a salesperson, sales marketing, all that jazz. And the only reason I was good at what I was doing is because I believed in the product, but I was totally honest with the clients. It was quite amusing because some of the management's clients would call me and say, hey, is this for real? What's going on? And I just say it as I saw it. And that was the reason why I was good at what I did. But if I was to ever try and manipulate and push approach, it just didn't feel right for me. But I know I would not get the sale.
Yeah, and I think for many of the clients that I work with, they've often tried some of these other methods of selling, and often they've come to me because they had a passion, they started a business, they were very excited to begin with. They were working with someone who had told them
Mm,
they would be able to get the results if they followed this strategy and used this script and all of these things. And actually, that didn't happen. They would get to the end, the money had gone because they'd spent it on an expensive program,
mm,
and they still didn't have any clients, and they still didn't know how to sell what they wanted to sell, or even really what exactly it was that they were selling, or who were they selling it to, and helping them to see that actually, as long as they align themselves with their heart, as long as they follow that heart's calling, then selling can become as easy as giving a gift because you're only selling to the right people, the people who genuinely are
mm.
going to be helped by you. And that's a huge difference.
Yeah, that's very true. And I found the other thing that happens is if when you follow the formula and you're expected to get, A, B, and C, and it doesn't happen, then you start to feel like a failure. What's wrong with me? Wow, all these people making money. And then you start comparing, and then what was a passion and a joy turns into a job. It gets put in the too hard basket. And I think that's how it also gets where we have these high expectations. And when we don't meet those expectations, then we start attacking ourselves, which leads to more mistrust in ourselves, but also in whatever it is that we're doing.
Yeah, yes, it does. I think if you're following the wrong kind of message or if somebody's changed what you're saying because they say this is going to be more effective, this is going to work better, but it's actually not
Mm.
what your heart is saying, and you just know
And
that those
and
words
it
aren't
doesn't
right.
and it just doesn't sound like you. You feel like a fake. And it's different for me as well because what I do, it's not something I can push or sell because unless someone wants to heal themselves, nothing anyone does is going to work. I can share what it is I do and try it out, but there's no way I can go, well, if you do this, then I promise this. It doesn't work whether it's in sales or whether it's in healings or any modality really, because it has to be something that you believe in and also be open to try at the same time. And
Yeah.
it's meeting that person's need, your client's need. Like, for example, in the gym industry, which I worked, a client might, hey, look, I just want to tone up, or someone say, I just need to lose X amount of weight. Then you've got to cater to a program that's going to suit their body, their limitations, and what they're willing to put into it versus, well, you've got to you train 7 days a week and you'll do this. It doesn't work for everyone.
Mm. I wonder how
Mm.
early these kind of things start, because looking back at my own sort of history growing up, I was always a very compassionate child and was fine at primary school, but was very badly bullied when I went to high school. And there was it kind of got me into a place of thinking, well, how can I fit in? I want to fit in. I don't want to be the person on the edge who's being treated so badly. And it didn't make me, I wouldn't say I completely changed or anything. I didn't start wearing completely different clothes or
Mm,
having my hair dyed different colors or so on. But
mm,
there was this insecurity with being me because I was afraid of what others would say if I was truly me. And I think going into business right at the beginning for me, well, I was in business before lockdown, but it was very face-to-face businesses. So going
mm,
into the virtual world and thinking to myself, well, how will I fit in the virtual world? Who do I need to listen to? Who do I need to get help from? And of
mm,
course, the people that were out there offering help were people who'd been successfully working online before lockdown, and they saw a gap in the market. They jumped in, and
mm,
for me, one of the definitions between the heart led and the head led is that the head led entrepreneur sees a gap in the market and jumps in, and it's about money. I can make money here. So they jump in and they fill the gap, even if they're not the best person. Whereas the heart led sees the gap in people's lives, they see the pain in people's lives, and they want to heal it, cure it, support it, help it. And that's where their goal is. And so I found myself in this world of you've got to tick all these boxes, you've got to do all these forms filled in, you've got to. Yeah, there was a sales script. I was given a sales script that was about 10 pages long of all these questions. And it was all about pushing the pain buttons. That was the big phrase. Take them right into their pain, get them to the point where they're feeling completely hopeless, basically, and then offer them a line, a sort of a hook
but
that will
but
draw
you
them
see
in.
that that is so nasty, and to me that's manipulation. I mean, where is your empathy? Why do you have to put someone in pain? To me, this is what I do, this is what I believe. If it resonates, great. If not, all the best to you. I'm sure there's someone else that can help you. The end. But and that's the heart space, I feel, and that's where we are heading towards, because clearly the past headspace, the ego driven cells, and so on are no longer working because people are just tired of the bullshit, really.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not just in the business world or in sales calls and all of this. It's true, I think, much wider, isn't it, in
It's
the
in every
world?
it's in everything. It's whether it's government, whether it's wars, whether it's health. I mean, yeah, one minute something's good for you, the next minute, oh my God, that's going to kill you. It's like all these mixed informations of having coffee is actually good, and then oh no, coffee's the worst thing. And so people are just tired, and people are just confused, especially after the COVID experience. People are starting to realize, well, this way of living is not okay. They were not happy. They weren't valuing life. They were just on this constant hamster wheel going nowhere.
Yeah, I think that's true. And it's very true across the generations as well. I think there are certainly those who are a bit, they're blinkered, they're just going to keep the head down,
Tunnel
they're just going to
vision,
follow
yeah.
whatever. But there are the number of conversations I've had now with people from right across the spectrum of generations saying, I always used to trust what the BBC said in the UK or the government said or the Prime Minister. Even if I didn't vote for that party,
Mm,
the conversation would be, I would know they had the best interests of the people at heart. They might make decisions I
mm,
didn't like, but they were doing it from a
mm.
good motive. Now, the number of people who will actually even vote in the first place is decreasing year on year because they don't like the language that's being spoken and they don't see the integrity. They
Well, that's it.
see, yeah, they see people
What
manipulating.
trust is broken, and you feel like, I know for me in the past, I felt like my kindness was mistaken for gullibility, having no idea that if I have my little boundary, you cross it, game over. And it's the same with politicians, and especially with what has been going on in the last 5 years, where it's don't do as we do as we say. I think many people feel that they have been manipulated and it's just one big joke. It doesn't matter who you vote, for example, at the end of the day, they're just puppets who are on the same agenda. And it's very disheartening because then you start questioning everything about your life. And when you lose that trust, it's very difficult, I think, to be able to run a successful business because you have to believe in what it is you are doing, whatever it may be. If you can't believe in you, how is someone else going to believe in you? Because energies attract energies, it's a frequency, which I'm sure when we've had that wake up in a bad mood and everything goes wrong and you feel like shit the whole day versus getting up and grounding and you're ready and everything falls into place. I think this is the time that we need to start mastering our emotions and not giving our power away to other people. And everyone wants that quick fix or give me that pill or whatever. We have to take our power back because only you can feel or make yourself successful. No one can do it for you.
Yeah, and that's another thing, isn't it? Unless you
Mm,
actually are fully all in with the message you're sharing or the business you're running or the
mm,
family that you're leading, unless you're all in, then as you say, nobody else can do that for you. You have to be fully
mm.
invested in the thing that you're living for, really.
Yeah,
Otherwise, as you
your
said, it
passion.
doesn't work. Yeah.
Everything's been exposed now, I feel. And so with all this that has gone on, people are very weary and mistrusting. And so if you cannot believe in your business or whatever the product that you are selling, it's going to come across because every type of sales, marketing, brainwashing you can imagine, humanity has experienced, especially in the last 5 years, to the next level.
Yeah. Yes, I was completely by chance last night. I was
Mm.
looking a little bit on social media to where my own account, and I
Mm.
got sort of switched over to this thing called Threads on Instagram. I don't know if you've seen it, but I don't
Yeah.
recommend you go there. And there was all these ladies, and presumably that's why it was in my feed or something. There's all these women who were talking about digital marketing, and they were clearly young mums who wanted or needed to earn a little bit of extra money just to
Mm.
get themselves by. One of the ladies was like, I just want to be able to take my children on holiday. She didn't want a huge
Mm.
thing, but clearly they were selling something for somebody else. There was no belief in it, understanding of it, thinking it's going to help people. It was just they needed the money. And I don't criticize them at all because, I've been there. I've been in that place where
Mm.
money's really tight and you just need to be able to pay the next bill or so on. But I really felt for them because they were clearly in this very high pressure sales environment, selling things that they didn't believe in, probably would never even let their children near, but they needed the money. And I just thought, I wonder what that does to you as a person, day
It
by
was
day, as it chips away, as you start telling people to buy something that you know they don't need.
Well, it chips away at your soul, I think, because you are not honoring yourself, but you're in your heart, you know you're being dishonest, especially when you're selling products that are really not ethical, as you said, or they're really not that good, but they're pushing it on other people, like, for example, other single moms who are struggling just as them. But that's okay as long as they give me the money. If you're okay with that, that is fine. But I think what's happening is that it's what causes suffering in the body, in the mind, in the spirit, because you're not being true to yourself. Because you can still work, but take the time out instead of being in fear of lack of money. Take the time to research and find out what it is you actually like. And I have many clients, people starting their business and whatever. And once the limiting beliefs are released, and trust in self is created, then anything is possible. They start their own businesses quite successfully because it's something they've been passionate about and wanted for a long time.
Mm. Yes, it's one of the things, excuse me, I love
Yeah.
working with our clients in Succeed from the Start because they're all part led, they're all sort of purpose driven, and many of them have followed the route of joining the wrong
Mm,
program and so on. One of the things that I did on the business was bring in the technical side because I realized that for many of them, that was one of the reasons that they ended up in the wrong place because things like tech and the sort of structure of the business didn't really float their boat, that didn't really excite them, and they didn't
yeah.
understand it, or they were even a bit afraid of it. So they were looking to someone to help to do that. And the people who were doing that were actually people who were mostly very head driven. And so I brought it into the community so that they could have access at a very affordable rate and get the support that they needed to do those things in a way that felt good. And that was probably the best business decision I could have made, because it was suddenly there was a big sigh of relief. It's like, oh my word, I can do these things and still be 100% aligned to the calling that I've got or the message I want to share. It was just such a magical moment for me to be able to offer something that would
But
help them to sort of succeed in what they were doing in a way that felt right for them. What about yourself in your
yeah,
business? Tell us a little bit about who you work with.
for my clients vary. So I do have clients with emotional traumas. I do have some clients with autism, learning skills, and so forth. But in regards to a lot of my clients, people that, yeah, they do want to start something new. They hate their jobs or they're seeking relationships and so on, and they're not happy. So it's helping them heal those wounds, those fears that dictated their actions, where they got to a certain level, but they know they can't go any further because they're still carrying the fears and the wounds of the past. So I do work with clients who suffer from depressions as well, and clients who have been abused as children, especially with the trafficking and all that sort of jazz. That's the serious stuff in my life, but I'm so honored that I can help these people. But with business, clients that come to me are ones that they have the most amazing ideas, but they don't believe in themselves. They feel like failure. So all those limiting beliefs, it's what gets us stuck in jobs that we don't like, and it's bringing the money, and that's enough. And once we release the belief systems of not being good enough, not being worthy, not trusting, then everything changes. But it's people need to take responsibility. So part of what I do is give homework, because if you can imagine, you've had a lifetime of these negative thoughts. They're not going to be released overnight. Yes, they do get released, but you have to maintain it by changing your thought process from one of negative to one of positive, for example. Breathing exercises that release the stress and anxiety, and recognizing you don't need to take drugs for any of that. You can actually do it. It's A, cost effective, B, it's 100% that works, and C, you're in your power. But you have to want to do that. So I obviously spent time studying with the shamans, and the first principle of shamanism is the world is what you think it is. The second is energy flows where attention goes. So if your attention is focused on comparing to others and I've got to make the quota, I've got to make the money, then you're blocking it because it's coming from a fear. And when you're wanting, it's in the future. So it's never going to come, versus I am now grateful. I'm now abundant. Today, it's a wonderful day filled with abundance and grace, for example, some of the affirmation every day in every way. My life gets better and better. And it does. And it's learning to have fun, like to honor your inner child, go to the playground and swing on the swings, put your feet in the water, in the ocean is the greatest healer. But it's learning to reconnect with nature, which is the greatest healer of all, and coming back to yourself on who you want to be versus what everyone else wants you to be. So we all wear masks. I think you agree with that. A different mask for a different person. And some people then get lost, don't know who they are, which mask is there. So it's really about empowering and learning to understand that you are the artist of your dreams. So for example, my greatest teacher is Don Miguel Ruiz. Part of the homework of my clients is to read the Four Agreements and then the fifth. And one of the things he said, for most people right now, and me included, in the past, we are the actors in our movies where we are getting tossed from side to side, where we're told what to do, where to do, how to do, and why. The mastery of this existence is not only to be the actor of your movie, but to be the writer, the producer, the director, the editor. You decide what comes in and what goes out. And that is true freedom, and that is the empowerment. And that's when the magic is created, because what you are doing is coming from love. And we are divine beings. Abundance is everywhere, but we have to be willing to seek it, but also to be willing to accept it, because we are so judgmental on ourselves, especially as we have been raised with this social media and everything else that's around us.
Yes, you can't easily get away from that sort of thing. And I think, when
No.
you talked about wearing masks, I remember saying to this lady once, she'd asked me how I was, and I initially
Mm.
said I'm fine. I wasn't fine actually. I was having a
Mm.
really difficult day. And I just then said, you know what? That's not true, actually. I'm not feeling good at all.
Mm.
And it shocked her because actually she didn't really want to know. She didn't actually really want to
Yes.
know how I felt. And she just was just, it was just like a social nicety. And then we got into a conversation and I said, you do realize that most people will answer that question with, I'm fine, thank you. And I said, because they're wearing a mask, they're hiding from the thing that they really want to say. And she just wouldn't accept that. She said that wasn't true. And we didn't fall out or anything, but I thought it was so sad because I felt that there was a superficiality then to relationships because it's not until you really trust yourself, trust the person in front of you, that you're going to take the mask off. And if you've actually been used to wearing lots of different masks with different people,
Mm.
potentially you're completely confused about, like you say, who
Mm.
are you? Who is the real person? And until you've connected with that and fully accepted yourself
Mm.
and love yourself. I talk to my clients quite often about falling in love with themselves. I'll get them very often at the start of their journey to write a love letter to themselves because it's not until they fully embrace the calling inside of them, the message that they've got to share, that they can start going out there and talking about it confidently and not care what anybody else says.
Mm.
Doesn't matter if somebody doesn't agree with them. That's fine. You can have a
That's
conversation.
and that's where I think is sad what's happened today, that it's almost like you're not allowed to have your own opinion, or if your perception of this existence is not the same as the narrative, then you're automatically being attacked. And I have a great example. When you were saying, I was going for a swim and this person said, oh, how's the water? And I said, oh, it's a little bit dirty because it was seaweed. And her was a lady actually, and her response was, you're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to say that it's great. And why did you ask me? And it's like, wow, you can't be honest about something as simple like that, because I have to follow everything is fine, everything is great, but it's not great in their mind. That's them, the delusion of, if I say it long enough, I'm going to believe it, but it's not actually working for them,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
similar to your story, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't
Yeah.
believe she actually got crossed with me. I'm like, what do
I
I
do know
do with that one?
that's incredible, isn't it? And she didn't want you to say that. She wasn't prepared. She had an idea of what you should say. And if you didn't say that, you didn't fit. You didn't fit her,
Didn't fit into the
idea.
quota. And that's the thing in Don Miguel Ruiz, that's the man that was my greatest inspiration. Like in the agreements, one of them is don't take things personally. And the other is never make assumptions, always do your best. Be skeptical with your word, because we use it like black magic on ourselves. And yeah, and so, but we have taken everything personally as an attack, because these are the wounds that we carry. Because when you've healed your wounds, you're not going to take anything personally. For example, I know if someone said to me when in my 20s I was fat, I'll be, oh my God, so paranoid because everyone around me was so skinny and things. Now it's like, yeah, whatever, because it doesn't affect me, because I'm comfortable in my skin. And it's really sad, because as children, we're not taught to be comfortable in our skin of who we are, regardless of shape, form, or thoughts. And I think that's
Yeah,
part of the issue.
I think you're right. It came clear to me very when my two older children were young, little. My son, my eldest son, was struggling with some bullying going on because he really minded what people thought about him. And that's, I remembered the feeling from my own high school days. But I looked at my daughter, who'd always been quite sort of self-assured. And it was almost like if my son had, if somebody had said to him, that painting's rubbish, you can't draw, that's completely rubbish, and he's
mm.
put it in the bin, that would have crushed him. Whereas my daughter would say, well, that's your opinion, and I don't really care what you think. I like it.
Mm.
And she was completely comfortable in, she was doing it, she liked it that way, and it was none of their business. And it just meant she was never bullied because she just had that aura of, I like myself, comfortable with who I
That's
am.
That's it. And also, everyone is so pigeonholed. Like you said, some are more sensitive than others. And so that level of teaching or explaining, just like in the sales that we spoke regarding business, some people are not comfortable going bang, bang, bang. Others, that's how it's fun. So that's the importance of finding what works for you, that not every formula is 100% guaranteed because it has to resonate with who you are and what you believe.
Mm. I think it's a whole life journey, actually. I think if I look back over my own life, I look at the children, look at my mum and so on,
Mm.
there's a point in life, if we don't fully accept ourselves, if we don't love who we are, then it colours our whole life. It can affect so many things, and not just the relationships around us, work relationships, family relationships, just how you live your life, how you go to bed at night, how you fall asleep at night. If you haven't come to a place of peace with who you are and how you're going to live your life, then it's not surprising that you struggle. You probably don't sleep well at all, actually, if you're in that space. As we sort of haven't got too much longer left,
Mm.
let's look at a couple of pieces of advice, perhaps, for people who are watching, who are thinking, I'm not living true to myself. I'm struggling with who I am. I'm struggling with what people think of me. I'm not achieving the success that I'm looking for. What would you say to somebody like that? Just something that would might help them to start off on the right track.
My question is, who said you're not living yourself? Who said you're not good enough? Whose truth is it, really? And that when you start to question that and do a list of the things you like about yourself and the things you don't like about yourself and the things you don't like about yourself, then you have a choice. Own it and heal it, whatever that is. Take action. For example, I really don't like my confidence, yet I want to be a speaker. Well, hey, guess what? This meetup groups that are free, doesn't cost money, where you can go and learn how to be a speaker or meet people similar to you that can inspire you, where you can go on the journey together. But you have to actually own it first and recognize that you're not a victim. As children, we are, but as adults, we're not. We have a choice. We can maintain the cycle of the ancestors, or we can use it to rise above it. So it's finding what resonates for you. Some it might be counseling. Some might love the work that I do. Some might prefer to go to a psychologist, a naturopath, or whatever. Finding, but first you have to want to. I think that's the key. How bad do you want to? Because
Yeah.
anything is possible. You have to understand that we are taught limitations. And what I've learned from my own experience, because let's face it, not very few of us have had the Brady Bunch childhood. Sorry for old school people. At the end of the day, it's understanding that you create your reality based on your thoughts. What you think, what you speak is what you create. And I found those that gossip and bitch about others wounded. Like the bullied is someone that has been bullied, for example. And that's where I tell my clients, the bigger the bitch, the bigger the wound. It's nothing personal. Because if you're truly happy in yourself, you don't have the time to be going, oh my God, look at her or look at him and blah, blah, blah. And if you are doing that sort of thing, then it's about looking at yourself. What don't you like in yourself that you have to project on others so you can feel good about yourself? So it's really going, for me, it was going inside of me, finding out, why am I feeling this? What is the cause? For me, I needed to know the why. Once I was able to understand it, then I went out there and learned and found tools that would help me to heal whatever that issue was. But knowing that you can do it, and to don't believe what other people say. No one can tell you who you are, only you know who you are. And no one can judge you, because unless they walked in your footsteps, then how do they know? So why do you value their opinion so much?
Yeah, I think
You know,
that's excellent advice. And I think one of the things that helped me to become fully at peace with who I was also looking back and, like you say, asking myself, why do I think that? Why do I
mm,
allow that opinion to matter? And I realized that there were situations in my life where people had damaged me in one way or another, as a child, as a teenager,
mm,
that I needed to forgive. I needed to forgive those people. I needed to unhook myself from them. And the realization that by forgiving them, I wasn't saying that it was okay what they did. I was just saying, I'm not prepared to be held by that anymore. It was like I was hooked to something that was
mm.
holding me back. And once I unhooked
Yeah,
it by forgiving,
you're,
it's like a springboard really into the future that I could now be who I am and take all the learnings and actually accept myself for me, not for what anybody
mm,
else thought of me, just for me. And that made a massive
mm.
difference to how I
I'm
led my
so
life from that point on.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because the key is forgiveness. And what people don't realize, forgiveness isn't that you're going to allow them back in your life. I'm sorry, an asshole is an asshole. It doesn't mean, but what it means, it's setting yourself free. And people find it difficult to understand. I can never forgive her or him or whatever, or the situation. It's in the past. You can't change it. But by forgiving, it means you're setting yourself free and you're allowing your heart to grow. And with that comes all the abundance. And I actually turned away a client last week because he could not understand that he is not a victim. It was everyone else's fault. But he could not even see that, hey, look at all the abundance you still have financially and whatever. But it was this blame game. And so he was depressed. So he was paranoid. He had all these things. And at the end, I had to say, I'm sorry, it's a waste of your money and my time, because in my experience and in the way I work is you have to own your shit. You have to recognize it is an experience, a lesson, as horrible, whatever it was. It is not what should dictate you now, because all we have is the now. And it's only through living in the now that we can create our future. But many of us are just living in the past. And when we keep feeding the story of he said and she said, all the energy goes into that. So then you're not creating a new story. You're not following your path. Have you found that as well? Like that was like the key.
Yes, absolutely. I think and the same is true really with my current clients, although it's a business, I'm a business coach.
Mm,
Unless you've released yourself from the mistakes of the past. And some of them are self-perpetuating. Some of them have actually happened because we've allowed them to happen. So we've got to forgive ourselves
mm,
too. I found that quite powerful. But yeah, unless we're prepared to do that, then we can't move forward. And it was, I suppose, because I often see in images
mm.
and having that image of being attached to this thing behind me, to the past, almost like those bungee ropes that stretch that you sort of hold things
Yeah.
in place on. It kind of it was like that. While I didn't let
Mm,
go of it, why I didn't when I didn't forgive, even if I managed to make some progress forward, something would happen and I'd be pulled back again
yeah.
because I was still
Yeah.
attached to that thing in the past. And until you could say no, actually, enough of it is enough. I forgive, I let go, and I release myself from all of that. Until I could do that, I kept being pulled backwards. And I think
Well,
that's probably out of a conversation. You know, it's an important thing for people to take
mm.
away with.
Yeah, it's very important because it's one step forward, two steps back. And we've all had that experience because we're just holding on to it like a safety blanket, but it's not. It doesn't serve us. And it's recognizing that it's actually, I don't feel that it's mistakes. I think it's lessons. We're not being punished by some exterior God that's here to punish. I think, how do you grow? How do you learn? It's like, for example, when you're learning to walk, children fall down 100 times. And what do they do? Oh, well, they get up and continue. As adults, if we fell down trying to walk and hurt ourselves, we'll never walk again. It's like, it hurts. But as children, we have no fear. It's like, oops, and away we go. And I think we've lost touch with our inner child, and we need to bring the joy in whatever it is we're doing in life. Not only the joy, but also the gratitude. How lucky are most of us in this Western world? Things that we take for granted, like having a roof over our heads or being able to think for ourselves and so on.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
Mm.
As we come to a close, we've covered so much there, and I'm sure
Yeah.
that people are going to be having some questions and maybe having some thoughts that have raised in
Mm.
themselves as they listen. So, how can somebody get in touch with you if they would like to have a chat?
Um, well, they can get me on Instagram under my business, Alkehela, ALKEHELA. .com. And I'm also on Facebook. I do have a website, which is alkehela.com, and you can reach me through that as well. I do run monthly meditations. Welcome to join me this Monday. I take people on a journey. And yeah, look, I'm happy to chat with anyone. On my website, I've written some blogs which talks about all these things, just inspirational, and there's lots of affirmations and things like that. But please understand, this is an opportunity for humanity for the first time to truly be free, because the greatest gift given to us is we have free will. So we can choose how we want our life, our reality to be.
Mm. Yeah,
Mm.
it's a good point, a good place to end. So if you're watching us,
Mm.
then thank you for doing so. Do
Oh,
share
thank
with
you.
others that you feel might benefit. And if you've got a story that you'd like to share, if you're a heart leader, if you understand the difference between the heart and the head, then I would love to talk to you and find your perspective, because we're here to help help the listeners to start believing in yourself, to start accepting yourself, to start loving
Mm.
yourself, to start using the gifts that you've been given, to go out there and change the world, to change lives of people around you, to change lives that you're called to change. All of us have a calling if we will listen to it and acknowledge it. So I would love to talk to you if you want to share your story here and help others to connect with their hearts too. Thanks very
Mm.
much for coming along, Christina, today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And thank you to everyone that's been listening. Just remember, the world is what you think it is. Have a beautiful night. Thank you.